Hi everyone, welcome to this hangout about the digital marketing strategy of the New York Red Bulls. My guests are Scott Sandalow, he's the digital media manager from the New York Red Bulls. He used to work from the Chigaco Fire Soccer Club. He has already worked with CBS Radio, All-Terrain, Frog Events and Fleishman-Hillard, amongst others. And we also have with us Molly Brady. She's the social media manager of the New York Red Bulls and has already worked as digital media coordinator at the Seattle Sounders and the Seattle Seahawks. Guys, welcome to this hangout. You are live from New York.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Okay, so first of all, I would like to the persons that are watching us, if you have any questions to Molly and Scott, please post your questions on the comments section of the YouTube video. So, first of all, how have you started working for the New York Red Bulls? What was that moment you have said, I want to work in soccer or football, as we say in Europe?
Yeah, I think for me, my moment, it started like 10 years ago now. So to preface, I'm a big Leeds United supporter, fortunately or unfortunately. And when I first joined Facebook, there was no like really good way to talk to other Leeds United fans and kind of find like news and information about the team that was really updated and up to date. So I decided to kind of make my own Facebook group and connect with other fans across the world. So it started more for me as something that I had to do, and then it turned into something that I kind of realized I was good at, and I could build a community around this team, and I thought there was an eventual chance for me to actually work for a club. But it really started with me doing it out of an imperative. I just needed information, and luckily Facebook was the perfect vehicle for that at the time.
Yeah. What about you, Molly?
Mine is a little bit different. After college, I was doing PR for art galleries in New York. And as I was looking for sort of the next step in jobs, I was looking for a job that would kind of incorporate a lot of things I love to do, which, you know, soccer, play soccer, watch soccer, you know, writing, graphic design, digital media, and like digital media is just the place where all those things come together. So I got a job out in Seattle and haven't regretted it for a minute. So coming out to New York was a promotion and a chance to work with, you know, a really, really cool club like the Red Bulls, so it's been good.
Perfect. So one of the questions that I have before we dive into the digital marketing thing, I would like to ask you about the differences that exist between Europe and the North America soccer fans. So because in Europe, you have tradition, clubs with more than 100 years. People are very emotional about their connection with their club. They are a fan for life. But in North America, things are recent. So the Major League Soccer is only 21 years old. The club, the New York Red Bulls, former New York Metro Stars, I believe, it also has 21 years old. So how can an American or New Yorkers become a fan of the club? So what's the strategy that you have in place to achieve that? So first of all, what's the difference? And then what's the strategy that you have in place to really target those fans?
Yeah, I think you know, there's a lot of people who'd see that as a detriment that, you know, these clubs have been around for 100 years and, you know, we've only been around for 20, but I think it's a really interesting opportunity for us to help build the identity of a club, you know, with the fans. And there's so many ways for us to listen to what people are saying about this team every second of every day. So it's a lot more of a collaborative effort to help build a fan base instead of just having 100 years of really history that's not going to change at this point. I think it's, you know, a lot easier for us to help build a club from, you know, from the fan standpoint too. So I think it's much more of an opportunity and much more of a fun way to build a tradition. And we're not just doing it by ourselves, and we're able to listen to what fans say all the time. So instead of just doing it one way, we're really building it, you know, within what we're doing here, but also with what fans are saying. So I think it provides us this unique and amazing opportunity to build a club with the fans. So I think in 50, 100 years, when we have this history, it's going to be really built collaboratively. So that's what's so exciting about working with MLS.
Yeah, and it's really cool. As Scott was saying, that it's so collaborative that, you know, we're not trying to recreate, you know, EPL. We're not trying to recreate Serie A or, you know, anything like that. It's really to create an authentic fan base, to create, you know, sort of this authentic history around our league. it has to be an open dialogue between the clubs and the fans. That, you know, we look to them, to our supporters groups, to our fans, and we see, you know, like, how are they running their supporters groups? You know, how are they interacting on game day? What are their cheers? What are their chants? How do they talk about the club? You know, where do they go? And you look at all these things, and you just kind of process them, and then you figure out how you represent that as your club's identity. So, you know, different supporters groups, like their capos, they run in different ways, like the ones that are more, you know, like Italian style or English style or whatever that. And so you sort of look at, like, what your fans are doing, you know, what traditions from other, you know, obviously great soccer empires they love, and you just sort of, like, figure out how you can incorporate those into what you're doing to really create this authentic identity and authentic fan base, and, you know, build something real in MLS versus just try and, you know, create a plastic version of history.
Yeah. Well, our first topic actually, so it's the steps we have to do to build an innovative digital strategy. And one of the things that you are really focusing, it's on building a relationship on digital with the fans. So for you guys, what looks like a normal day in the office for you? How do you manage to really work on this digital aspect of communications?
Yeah, I mean, luckily, a normal day starts, Molly and I sit about as close to each other normally as we do, you know,
like you are now, right?
Yeah, so a lot of the day, it'll usually start with a text message early in the morning with me kind of sending out the editorial content for the day. So I'll send Molly a text along with a text to our communications coordinator and writing staff that has kind of the list of content we're going to put out for the day. And as I put out the content, we use a content management system to kind of calendar out everything we're going to do for the day and then the week and then for the month. But it really starts off, it's a lot more of personal interaction than I think a lot of people would expect on digital. I mean, if I post content, it's going to be a lot of me just telling Molly something went up right now and it's ready for her to post. But it starts with organization, usually, you know, the week before or the day before. We're just going to kind of set up what we have, and then Molly's able to make sure she schedules everything in kind of a timely and appropriate manner. So that's where it starts from my end.
Yeah, and I think it's really important, obviously, with social and digital, that, you know, you're in the moment, you're current, you're following what's going on. So in order to be able to do that in an effective way, you have to have this real solid base of content, like, you know, what your weekly content is, what your stories are, what's going out every day. So you start every day with, you know, a general idea of, you know, what your big pieces are, what the framework is, and then that really allows you to be a bit more spontaneous in the moment. And, you know, social's right in the title. So it's if Scott sees something, if I see something, if, you know, we're, you know, talking to fans, monitoring our channels, looking at what's going on, that you can, you know, react to something, reply to something. Just really be there when the opportunity pops up, knowing that you have the rest of your content really, really scheduled and in an informal way.
And I've always said, like, since I started the job, you know, my main focus as digital media manager is to support social in any way I can. So obviously I'm creating content for the website, but a lot of what I'm doing is figuring out the best way to support Molly on social. I mean, and that's where everything's going to start and end. So at the end of the day, everything goes to social.
Yeah, you are talking about content, and how do you plan for an entire season? So in the beginning of the season, you say, okay, our objectives are this for Facebook, for the website, whatever. How do you plan a season in New York Red Bulls?
Yeah, so I mean, the way I do it is I start with content I know I'm going to have every day, and then I start with content I know I'm going to have every week, and then I start with content I know I'm going to have maybe once every 2 weeks. So I can build out a schedule as to what we'll have for the whole season, and then try to fill in different gaps as they come. So, you know, with a week like NYCFC, I know we're going to have our normal kind of boilerplate content. So, like 2 days out before a game, we're going to have a scouting report, and we're going to have a by the numbers. And the day before, we're going to have a preview. And then the rest of the time, you know, during that week is just kind of filling those gaps and kind of figuring out what you know, real-time content we're going to have. So a lot of it's really templated and ready to go. But I think the content that's going to hit the best is going to be the content that we're going to kind of figure out on the fly. But I think it's just as important to remain organized and know what we're going to have. So we're not going to go into a day and Molly's going to ask me, you know, are we going to have any content today? That's the last thing, you know, any of us need. We need to know that something's in the pipeline, and it makes the rest of our job easy to do. We know what we have coming up.
Yeah, and then on the social side, when you're planning for a year, you keep it a little bit broader, and you look at, you know, like, what are the big things you want to accomplish that year? So for us coming in this year, we had, you know, a new GM, a new coach, a lot of new guys on the roster, We're bringing in a USL team. So it's a lot of it was, introduction. We wanted to introduce our fans to the new guys, like introduce them to the philosophy of this team, really to get sort of like the introduction part and like what you want to show people, that we want to show people our stadium, we want to show people our training facility. We want to give people that behind the scenes, how our team trains, how we get ready for games, what game day looks like. And you just figure out, what the really broad topics that you want to cover for the year are. And then, obviously, with keeping social a bit fresh, you just try and pull from those buckets every single week. You're showing people training photos, you're showing people interview pieces, that there's, personal stuff, that there's club stuff, that you're just really kind of drawing from all your big objectives all the time.
Yeah, and really it sounds good. Let me just remind people, if you want to ask questions to Molly and Scott, please post your questions on the YouTube comments section. So what do you have benchmarks when you are building that strategy? Do you have some brands that you follow and that you really say, okay, this is a very good benchmark, I will try to incorporate this benchmark in my strategy? Do you have some in sports or outside sports?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of brands I look at outside of sports. Everyone always asks me kind of what like my favorite brand on social is, and it's not even it's a cereal brand. It's this brand called Captain Crunch. It's just like it's my favorite cereal, and it always seems weird for me to like try to emulate what they're doing, but they created this amazing personality for their character on their cereal box. And for whatever reason, I really like resonated with this character on Twitter. And everything I've tried to do has been like to try to create like a fun and interesting personality through Twitter. And it's like a lot of what I've aspired to do has been through because of this Captain Crunch Twitter character. But I think in terms of benchmarks, honestly, I just want to do interesting stuff that people see. Like, numbers are whatever. I don't think. It's more important that people like what we're doing, because the only people who are looking at numbers who are people are working in the organization. The people who are looking at our content every day, they're not going to care if I get a certain amount of unique views. Like, they're going to care if they're going to get something interesting and something they resonate with. So to be honest, I don't care about numbers, and I don't really care about specific benchmarks. I just want to do interesting things that people might enjoy. The numbers are for people, or for my bosses. Everything else is for the fans. I couldn't care less about them.
Let me just add, that's a pretty bold statement, Scott.
100%. Yeah.
That's a pretty bold statement,
That's fine, and I'll stand by it.
Yeah, so I guess for the most, I really have to agree with Scott that when you're putting in the hours, like the type of work that social is, it's very, very personal, and you keep it, really close to your chest. So I think at the end of the day, you do want to be proud of what you're doing. So our benchmarks are, we look at sort of what the industry leaders in sports are doing, what the industry leaders in our league are doing, what the industry leaders, in, as Scott says, brands outside of sports are doing. And you want to make sure that you're, keeping up with the pack, that you're looking at, like, the best, and that you're striving to be a part of that. And then the other side of it is, numbers, whether you like them or not, are a very real part of it. So we have, personal goals that we're working toward, department goals, club goals. And, at the end of the day, if you're doing work that you're proud of, if you're, following your content plans, if you're really committing to, what you set out to do, like, the numbers are going to happen. Like, you can't, get caught up, stressing over Excel sheets every single day. With social, you really have to live in the moment. You have to do work you're proud of, work you want to be doing authentically, and, have faith that the numbers are going to get there.
Yeah, I have to say I agree with you on that part. Yeah, definitely. So imagine that I'm arriving at a club. I'm the new guy on the block, and my challenge is to set up the digital strategy for all the seasons. So what must be my main three concerns? Concern 1, 2, and 3.
I think probably 1, 2, and 3 would be just figuring out what your fans are saying already. I think those would be all the main concerns. I think before I work on a campaign, or when I was working in an agency, before I worked on a pitch, like, the one big thing I do is just do a huge audit of all their channels and everything that people are saying. So more importantly, like, instead of thinking about what you're doing, thinking about what people are doing already and what people are saying, and build and craft a strategy around that. Instead of figuring out what you're going to do, figure out what people are saying, and then build on that.
Yeah, and I think you really need to look at, like, what's going to best serve the club and what's going to best serve the fans. Like, whatever information you're trying to get across, like, where are people going to look for it, and make sure it's there. Like, make sure that that the website's easy to navigate, that, social's coming out at a timely feature. Because if you're putting out like the greatest content ever, but it's coming out at 3 o'clock in the morning, you know, that's not serving anyone. So I think you really need to look at, you know, like the best interest of the fans, the best interest of the club, and then what's a realistic way that those two are going to mesh. And is it, you know, whether it's building like a microsite and then linking to social, whether it's making a, you know, a solely social property, whether it's something that, you know, can embed and put somewhere on social media, that you're just really getting what the fans need, where they need it, and that you're accurately and correctly representing the club in that venture.
Yeah, and to really do that, we must deliver the experience for the fan in the same way in every channels, right? So we have to implement an omni-channel content marketing strategy. So my question was now, and going for our second topic already, what's your definition of content marketing? For you, what role does it play, content marketing, in the digital marketing strategy of a club?
Yeah, I think like the basis of any good content marketing strategy is just put the right stuff in front of the right people at the right time. And I think, you know, if you can do that, every channel has a different purpose, but they all have the same kind of underlying goal. So I think it's just putting the club in the best light possible and getting people information they need. So if you can just get the right stuff out again at the right time to the right folks, I think that's a great place to start, and that's a good blueprint.
Yeah, I really feel that content marketing is really a way to like market yourself and your best self a bit ahead of sales. That, you know, by content marketing, it's really a club first initiative. That you want people to know the players, you want them to know the club, you want them to know your history, you want them, you know, invest in being a part of, you know, what New York Red Bulls are ahead of sales. That it's not, you know, a ticket first approach. It's not a buy this approach. It's really, you know, content. It's getting people to love the club, and then, you know, the more aggressive and, you know, the tickets marketing, like all that comes secondary. That the main focus of content marketing is getting people to invest in your club. That you're showing them in the right ways, in the ways you want to, you know, authentically what you're about, and then let the other side of marketing and sales come secondary, honestly.
Yeah, well, we have a case study here to show, a case study you built with your first derby match in New York with the New York City. First of all, just a tease question, just to tease you a little bit. So you have a stronger opposition now in New York. I believe at least you have another club to fight for. So in what way this new club can steal fans from you? Can steal fans from the New York Red Bulls?
I think a lot of it, to be honest, it probably starts with winning. So I think they're not going to steal as many fans as they'd hoped originally. But I think just trying to create an identity with fans that maybe they didn't feel with us originally. So I think if they can create a bond with fans that, you know, somehow we didn't create before, I think that's probably the way that they could steal fans. But I think for us, it's important just to focus on what we're doing. And, you know, I think, again, like it's great that this club's here, and it helps us become better ourselves and figure out more ways to connect with fans. And I think one thing to clear up, like a lot of people, I think as we started ramping up what Molly and I were doing, a lot of people thought it was in like direct response to NYCFC, but a lot of it just because we wanted to do stuff for our fans. So I think it was good for them to help us and give us a little bit of a kick, but I think we would have done these things this year if they weren't here. So I think that's an important thing to remember too. We just have to focus on what we're doing a lot.
Yep. Well, we have a question here from João Martins. Hi, João, how are you? So he says that every day, and he says that today he heard something about Paolo Maldini wants to buy a club in the United States, the Miami United, I believe, yeah. He says. So he says that the Major League Soccer is getting more and more influence in the European clubs and investors. So as we know, the way to approach the fans, it's very different from Europe to North America. So I wonder, how can Major League Soccer get the attention of the European fans? Because we know that in North America, it's not only a game, it's the whole experience. So question for you guys.
I think at the end of the day, it comes down to play on the field. That, you know, over 20 years as the league has grown, I think you can see year over year that the the actual soccer, the football is getting better. So, you know, to fully win over fans, get a global audience, you know, have a great following, you know, you have to have good soccer. That all the flashy marketing, like, you know, all the big names, all the stories, everything we could put out, if the soccer doesn't measure up to it, it's not going to go anywhere. So I think, one, obviously that's something we have absolutely no control over, but one, I think that's, you know, really starting to get into place. It's an exciting game that, you know, we're building these rivalries, we're building meaningful games, we're bringing in players, you know, at their prime to still play really good soccer. And I think that's a start. And then from there, it's, you know, just telling the story that, you know, it's, I think, a very American story that we're bringing in players from all around the world, and their fans come with them. You know, for the Red Bulls, for instance, having, you know, Thierry Henry, Tim Cahill, in like our top 10, you know, social media cities, only 3 of them are in the U.S. That, you know, when you bring in these other players, you really do, you know, open yourself up to just having fans from everywhere, and you have to respect that. You have to market toward them. You have to provide content for them. Provide content in multiple languages. You know, you really have to embrace that fully, or it's not going to go anywhere.
And we also have some great stories of players from Europe that I think are really interesting. We've had guys here, you know, who have kind of been around different leagues in Europe, some in the top league, some have even played in the Champions League, and some who have kind of toiled in, you know, in lower league England, and they're really successful here. So I think there's a lot of really, really interesting storylines that start in Europe that kind of continue here. So I think there's a lot of storylines for people to latch on to of players here. Again, like the leading goal scorer for our team, Bradley Wright Phillips, played in England for many years before he came here. Lloyd Sam's another one. Damien Perenel is another French player who's played in top-level France as well as lower division France as well. A lot of our guys have played in Germany and Spain and other places. So I think there's a lot of interesting existing European storylines here. But also bigger than that, like this has been a big year for MLS with TV deals all over Europe. There's one with Sky. There's one in Brazil. There's one in Italy. So there's a lot of European TV deals with MLS. So just getting in front of as many people as possible too is a really big step. And it's been a huge year for getting it in front of as many people as possible.
And then probably one of the league's biggest moves in that regard is how they've set up their schedule to really make it, you know, soccer available to people when, you know, maybe their domestic leagues aren't playing, that the MLS is there. So I think even from the early days, they really figured out, you know, where can we start making our mark, where can we stand out a little bit more, and have exploited those in, you know, hopefully good ways.
Yeah, definitely. And you were talking about athletes, and I was thinking about David Beckham that went for Los Angeles Galaxy, and from one instance to another, everyone was talking about the Major League Soccer, the Los Angeles Galaxy, and so on. So you really raised the awareness about the league. And also with digital now, you have the worldwide distribution, you can say, because you have no barriers in your communication. So really, really, really good stuff to come, I believe. So. Guys, do you want to talk about our case study? So how have you built up the match, the derby match between New York Red Bulls and the New York City? So I have a slide here. So first image. So if you want to talk about it, so let me just show the image. Okay. So give me a moment, please.
Coming up, I guess I can start.
Yeah. So you started with an anthem, right? So at your left side, we have the anthem that you posted to tease New York City, I believe.
How all this went about is when we were coming into this game, it was a really interesting and unique challenge for us. That, you know, obviously being, you know, an inner city rival, this was a derby match, and, you know, regardless if anyone was going to say, you know, it is going to be a rivalry. But it's a rivalry with no history, with no games played on the field, with, you know, really no spine to it. So Scott and I really spent some time figuring out, you know, how we wanted to play this. And part of it was that the league invested a lot in this. They, you know, on their marketing side, on, you know, the TV side, like this game in this derby is and will continue to be, you know, an important piece for the league. So we wanted to do it justice in that way. And then also listening to our fans, like this was a game they were really excited about. Like they've been excited about this game for 2 years. So we certainly didn't want to just sort of, brush it off or blow it aside. We wanted to make, the week leading into this, the first derby match, the first time these two teams are playing, we wanted to make it about the game. Obviously that, it's all going to come down to what happens on the pitch. So we wanted to do that. And then we wanted to really focus on our fans that, since the minute NYCFC was announced as a club, our fans, this has been a thing for them. So we wanted to listen to what they were doing and, be a part of that. And so that's how this started.
We also, too, we wanted to focus on the things that we know we can do better than them at right now. And there's a few things that I think, we have on them. Obviously, we have 20 years of history. We have the most beautiful stadium in the league, and obviously they're still figuring out what their stadium situation is. So I think there's a lot of stuff that was only we had to use, but luckily there's a lot of stuff that they kind of gave us.
Yeah, and so going into that, the fun thing is since we do have an established identity, we do have an established voice, I think it's a little bit easier for us to kind of play around the line than it is for a team that's so brand new and is really trying to establish themselves. I'm not sure they really get the opportunity to do kind of the fun stuff that we got to do. So, when these things come up, you've got to take them. So obviously the first one is the song sheet, and this one hit Reddit pretty hard amongst our fans. The NYCFC was passing out these song sheets. So, they're writing new stuff. So, it is what it says it is. Study up. We were excited for them to come to our building. We were excited for this game. We wanted, their fans to be great. We wanted our fans to be great. We wanted the game to be great. So, that one's obviously a bit needling, but, it is exactly what it says it is.
And then,
yeah. Continue.
Yeah, no, and then
I
the
will
next
just throw
one,
out the other slides, yeah.
Yeah, so the next one with drinking the Red Bull, actually, our one of our staff who works in video and a video analysis department sent us this video. So there's no way you're not going to use this, and this is the funniest user generated content ever. But the user happened to be NYCFC, so I mean, there's no way we're not going to use this. We just have to figure out the right way to say it and without being too petty about it. But I think Molly found a good way to just kind of poke at them a little bit.
And I don't really think this is very petty at all. I think one of the big differences on the American sports scene is that soccer does have shirt sponsors that, for better or worse, whatever you feel about that in general or, that specifically with the club, that there are these brand ties that, don't happen in the NFL, don't happen in baseball. So I think that's sort of a unique thing to soccer that you can kind of, needle people a little bit on, who they're associated with by their club. Because, obviously on the line of rivalries and stuff, I know when DC had VW as their shirt sponsor, we certainly needled them on that, and people do Red Bull stuff at us all the time. So I think this is sort of a unique thing for American sports fans to kind of get into, that there's this sort of association we can start playing with.
Yeah, so some of the actions that you made. So declare your colors on social, make your profile red. So used Tweetbon to do it. Don't know if you want to talk about it.
Sure. I think as Scott and I were planning out the week, and Scott was a really big part of this, we really, going into the game, we wanted to go sort of from, the fun stuff, the kind of the joke stuff, the song, the Red Bull can, kind of the more fan-focused sort of what was going on around the match. And then as the week went on, we wanted to really narrow the focus down, to what actually mattered. That it was going from kind of this broad, fan perspective down to, what our fans were doing, that, show that you're red, New York is red, wear red, and then that dovetailed nicely into, obviously, the game preview, the match preview, all the things that were about the game. And it really gave us this really fun platform to blow up on with the idea that New York is red. And Quibbin is a great service. It's, it's cheap, it's easy to use, it's easy for fans to use, and it's really a fun way to, as it says, declare your colors.
Yeah, definitely. So guys, our final topic, current trends that can disrupt the football industry. So North Americans are almost always early adopters of the new technologies that are always arising. In sports, it's no difference, of course. So, and actually, I believe you were the first club a few years ago to start selling tickets on your Facebook page. So my question is, why have you done that? And it is a channel from where you can get a decent quote of revenue or not?
Yeah, I think anywhere else where you can try and get revenue is great, and I think if we're able to do it from Facebook, that's a big plus, and if you're able to do it from Twitter or from anywhere else, so that's a plus too. I think it's just creating ways that of revenue that normally you wouldn't get. So I think any of it becomes kind of a bonus, actually. Like you're going to sell tickets from your ticket spokesman and your ticket salesman, but you're also, if you get it from these other places, I think it's a nice bonus. You're not gonna sell the most season tickets on Facebook or on Twitter or on Snapchat, but you are going to sell a few extra ones. And I think if you're able to just get a few and show fans that you're trying to interact with them in every place that they are, I think it's more the gesture than actually selling the tickets as well. So I think if we can find a place to sell tickets, then that's not going to interfere or bother anyone, then I think that's great. But if it's going to be in a way where it's inhibiting, then we're not going to do it.
And it just comes down to one of the tenets of soccer, that soccer and soccer fandom is very, very social. It's supporters groups, it's clubs, it's away days, it's pub partners, it's how you're watching the game. So I think it just makes sense that you're just enabling people to, on their social channels, join the social side of soccer and buy tickets. So
yeah,
good one.
Yeah, well, and a few months ago, you used Snapchat to promote your new kits for this current season. You have let your players take over your Snapchat account, and they have posted a lot of funny snaps. Is this something that we'll do again in the future? What do you think about the use of Snapchat in sport?
For sure. Obviously, when you're looking at a new platform like Snapchat, you have to look at who's on the platform. And Snapchat is so young that 12-year-olds aren't going to buy a $600 season ticket package from us. But you look at what you can do with that platform to maximize it. So if it's young kids on the platform, obviously it helps you give this to our young kids on the team. So the people who really excel in doing Snapchat for us are the rookies and the young guys. And it's just a really, really nice way to connect with that young audience where they are. That it's fun, it's spur of the moment, it's spontaneous, it's showing them behind the scenes. There were a ton of Harry Potter references. It was goofy and fun. That I think there's some stuff you just have to look at what you can accomplish on the channel and do it really well, and not try and do everything. So Snapchat is not for sales, it's not for anything like that, but it's close, it's intimate, it reaches to
engage mainly, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we are almost finishing. One of the things that we are really talking about in the sports industry, it's about the live streaming apps like Periscope and Meerkat. So, do you think that this kind of apps, they can fit into your digital strategy or not? How are you planning to use them or not use them to engage the Red Bull fans?
Yeah, so I think they're amazing, and I think we've already started to use Periscope for a few different things. We even used it to live stream a penalty kick one time, which may or may not have been legal, but it was cool. I think the thing that I always say, to Molly or to anyone else who's trying to do a video, it's views we weren't going to have before, and it's content that wasn't available before. So the worst that happens is a few people watch it and maybe it's a little shaky, but the best thing that happens is it creates this really interesting piece of content that people can engage with. So I think anytime you're putting out stuff that you weren't able to put out a year ago, I think it makes things exponentially better. And I think we found some interesting ways to use it, and I think it's just going to get better and a lot more fun. And again, it was stuff that wasn't available before, so it's just another channel to make things accessible for the fans.
For sure, and I like how unproduced it is. That there's so many good people who work in sports digital media, so many great professionals that produce beautiful things. That sometimes you get to the point that things are overproduced, where every single thing you put out has run through so many filters and so many edits and everything. The fun thing with Periscope and Meerkat and all those things for our fans is it really is unfiltered access. That, you know, when we're periscoping down in the tunnel, you know, before they walk out or around the game, like, you can only control so many things. So I think there's kind of that fun urgency that that's what you want in social media. So it's, I think it's.
And another good thing about it too, I think it's kind of a sign of the times, which the way that people are consuming and sharing highlights. If you look on Reddit Soccer, like the main posts aren't these YouTube posts that show like, you know, 18 different angles of the goal. The main posts on YouTube are either a GIF or they're shot from someone's phone or they're like vines of the TV. So like it's not as much about like, you know, the quality of the shot. It's really about getting the right timing, getting the right perspective. So again, like
timeliness and access.
Yeah.
Like, that's the one thing a club can provide to their fans that no one else can, and this is a great tool for that.
And it allows anyone to do it. I think that's the coolest. Yeah. Anyone from, you know, Molly or me to one of our interns who started 2 days before is able to shoot, you know, this really cool piece. So it just gives everyone a really cool, easy perspective, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Definitely. I believe that we as a consumers, we are becoming very powerful, and even more with this kind of solutions that are emerging. So really cool stuff for us, and also for you to engage the fans. We have another question here from João Martins. He says that in Portugal and also in the main Europe leagues, the marketing departments often use the importance of the city in the history of the clubs for their campaigns, and sometimes to promote the huge difference between those clubs, so the historical conflicts and so on. So this is important in the North American market or not? You talked about the New York case in particular, but is this important to have? Do you think that the weight of not having an history, if I can say this way, how can you really, I'm lacking the words now to really express myself. So, but do you think that using the city, using the characteristics of the club, the history, is this important for you in the US?
Yeah, I think it's incredibly important, and I'll give our next game on Sunday as an example. Like, so Philly, you know, has only been around for a few years, but we've already developed this like amazing, pretty intense rivalry with them that starts from our fans. So I think even, again, like not having, you know, 100 years is not a detriment. Like it really, again, allows us to build it and kind of craft it the way that we want to craft it. So like, you know, we have an intense rivalry against DC. We have a really big rivalry, you know, against Philadelphia. We have a new rivalry against NYCFC. So it's actually more fun. I think it allows us to create, you know, new storylines, but also build on the ones that our fans have created. So I think it's exciting in the fact that it allows us to create new rivalries and new stories, you know, with each game that we play. Again, the game against Philly on Sunday, like these two teams and supporters groups, they hate each other, and that's, you know, that only took a couple years. So I think that's going to happen from the first time that teams play. But now we really get to explore it and get to build that out instead of, you know, just letting it happen as it does kind of in Europe.
Sure, and I think even more than history, in American sports, geography is such an important identifier for clubs and fans. And it's, you know, the people who were born somewhere, like Scott was born in Chicago, and Chicago's in his bones, and it's, you know, his teams and everything.
For me, just let me interrupt. When I think of Chicago, I always think about Chicago Bulls because of Jordan.
Oh, no, that's,
as you should.
That's understandable.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
And then the other part of it is people who go somewhere and then adopt that as their home and their geography. So if, you know, you're not from New York, but you come to New York and you identify, you know, with the city, with the area, and, you know, that's, you know, another way to come into a fandom and to have this immediate and very real and close connection to it. So, like for NYCFC and the Red Bulls, you know, we used to be the New Jersey, New York Metro Stars and the Metro Stars. So the whole metro area has always, you know, been ours, and, you know, we continue to market the, you know, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, in the city, out of the city, you know, all the boroughs, the suburbs. It's all part of this metro history, whereas NYCFC has really focused on, you know, the city and the 5 boroughs. And I think you really kind of, you know, pick, you know, what your geography is, what your area is, and, you know, that's who you are, and it's the people who live there. And I think more than history, I think geography plays a really important part to it. American fans.
And you could also argue too, like the best thing that the four main sports have been doing for us, like they've set the table really nicely for MLS to kind of like take the mantle, and run with these geographical rivalries. Like, New York and Philly, like every one of those, baseball, football, basketball, hockey, like those teams already hate each other. So like there's like such a good ingrained hate through these cities. Like the other sports like have done the best job like setting us up to build a great rivalry. So like instead of using 100-year-old European history, we're using other team sport, other sports history. So that's been like the best way to kind of create rivalries based on what's happened before us in professional sports.
Yeah. That is a great point. Great point. That is a great point. Well, last question for you guys. So what suggestions can you give for someone that wants to start a career in the sports industry, or in Europe, or in America? What's your suggestions?
I think mine for now, it probably changed from what it was like a couple of years ago. Start tweeting a lot. Start talking about what you're interested in, and find a way to connect with the people that are in these positions. I would have said 2 years ago, maybe it's best to like, job shadow a team for a day, which I still think is really good, but like stay as connected as and informed with the people that are doing these jobs as possible. Like we always, as professionals, like we want to talk about social and sports with anybody who's willing to talk. So I think if you show that you're passionate about sports, like through a network that we're on, and you can show that you're successful on the networks that you want to work with, then we want to talk to you. So like, if you are interested in doing stuff on Twitter with a professional team, like show me online what you're doing can translate to sports. Again, like if someone sends me, a job application with a resume, I'll immediately go to their Twitter or their Instagram. And I think just show me, don't tell me, would be the best way to kind of prove that you belong in sports.
Yeah, I agree. Like that's the great thing about social media, that everyone can be a part of it, be a part of the conversation. And everyone's on pretty equal footing there. So, figure out what you love to do and do that, and, do it well, and, meet people, make connections, be social on social media, and the right opportunities are going to present themselves.
Oh, perfect. Scott, were you going to say something?
No, I guess the one thing I'd add is, like, on the other side of that coin, like, is as much as we can see you doing some awesome things, we can also tell when you're doing some really weird things on social too. So we'll find that too. So we've lost some good candidates based on some kooky things that they've posted on social. So like, post great stuff, but be a little careful about it. And if you're going to post some bad stuff, just have like an alter ego or something.
Well, perfect. Guys, thank you so much for being with us, sharing your knowledge about the DigiSport area. Thank you so much. Do you have some final words?
Yeah, I mean, just, go Red Bulls, and, we play on Sunday against Philadelphia Union, one of the teams that I know our fans hate, and frankly, I hate too. So tune in to see all that hate fester online and then during the game.
Okay.
A new look for the team. They're young. They're playing great football. It's an exciting start to the season. So let's see where this goes.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Thank you again. Thank you all for watching, and see you soon. Bye.
Thank you.